So, ladies and gentlemen, there is quite a bit of information that came out today for Buffalo Bills mandatory minicamp day one, right? All starting very early in the morning when we heard that James Cook, despite all of the reports, decided to not only show up to mandatory minicamp, but also participate. We heard from Josh Allen. We assigned a veteran linebacker in Shaq Thompson. We heard from Coach McDermott. We heard of a couple of players that are already not participating due to injuries already. And damn, a lot of info, a lot of info. I could imagine on this edition of the Don Mafia Report, I'm going to touch on some of the big storylines at the beginning, but the vast majority of today's episode is probably going to be on the Q&A side of things, right? Because again, there's so much to unpack. There's so much to discuss, and we can't complain about it because we know that this little period in June is going to be the last taste of football we have for the next 5 weeks. So let's relish in this. Let's roll around and be thankful that we are able to have so much stuff to talk about today. And boom, let's lock it in. Folks, if you are just tuning in or you are just discovering this stream, my name is Dan Mitchell. I am the largest Buffalo Bills creator on the internet. When you compare or you combine all platforms, I regularly put out content about the Bills and the NFL. So if that is your cup of tea, I highly recommend you subscribe and you turn on bell notifications so you never miss an episode. Mandatory minicamp. It is in. And the first topic I would like to discuss has to be James Cook, right? Because we ended up getting tidbit after tidbit of information rolling in to this mandatory minicamp period, starting off with Schefter's tweet yesterday suggesting that James Cook was more than likely not going to show up, or Buffalo is not going to see James Cook for a while due to his contract situation. But we heard that he decided to show, and then the narrative turned into, oh, he's going to hold in. He's not going to participate whatsoever. Then practice came along, and then Sean McDermott took the podium, and it turned out that he indeed was going to practice. He actually took 6 snaps from 11 on 11 practices. There are videos circulating all across the internet already, all right, of him doing individual position drills. And more importantly, he spoke to the media. He broke his silence. And I feel like we learned quite a bit from James Cook during that, right? I think, as I feel like a lot of us had a gut feeling toward this topic, this entire thing was over dramatized. You could tell by his energy, right? Just echoing over and over again, being like, yes, I wanted a contract, but are you about to witness myself miss out and get fined $17,000 a day for me not participating? He mentioned how he wanted to be there for his teammates. We've heard from Sean McDermott from the front office, from his actual teammates, how much of a locker room guy he is, how much of a culture benefit he is to this overall team. And he wanted to be out there with his guys. And he mentioned that he is going to allow God to take control. He's going to control what he can control, and he's going to play ball and help the Buffalo Bills win a Super Bowl. Now, we can all sit here and speculate as into why the sudden shift in narrative. Perhaps Schefter has some bad sources, or maybe something changed within the past 24 hours. Whether or not that was a change of heart from James Cook, where he decided, hey, you know what? It doesn't look like I'm going to get a deal, so I think this is going to be my showcase year where I can ball, and then maybe I'll get a contract next offseason. Or we could further speculate and say maybe Brandon Beane's cooking something up. Maybe we don't know what's going on. Maybe the front office, as we speak, is working up a deal for the the running back. I don't know, but I'll tell you what. I can tell you a metaphorical weight has been lifted off of our shoulders, knowing that James Cook is in the building. Maybe not so much as we would have missed his production, but rather it would have been a very annoying storyline on HBO's Hard Knocks if this were to go in a different direction. Absolutely love to see that. All right. Next big storyline just so happens to be a last-minute free agent acquisition. Shaq Thompson, folks, linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. It's funny how we regularly go to our farm organization down in Charlotte, North Carolina. There are so many instances where Sean McDermott has brought players from his time in Carolina, almost to a point where people get genuinely frustrated that the Buffalo Bills regularly bring in players who were formerly Carolina Panthers. In my opinion, I like it because if you were to reflect back on my stream earlier this morning, somebody posed a wonderful question and they said, Dan, if there's any position group going into the 2025 season that you are uncomfortable with, what would it be? And I started by saying this might be one of the first years where, for the most part, I feel comfortable with depth all across the board, with the exception of two position groups. One was the safety room, and one was the linebacker. I said it helps that Buffalo typically runs nickel, right? Where more oftentimes than not, we are only going to be seeing two linebackers out there at any given moment, right? Sometimes you'll see some 4-3 formations, very rarely because no one's going to take Taron Johnson off of the field. But depth was a concern, especially since Matt Milano and Bernard have been known to have their run-ins with bad luck when it comes into injuries. Shaq Thompson is interesting to me, right? He did tear his Achilles last year, okay? So there is that. And he only played 4 games. He is 31 years old. And let me tell you what, very talented linebacker. Franchise record for tackles for a loss. His 2022 season was absolutely incredible. I'm talking like 136 tackles, 30-somethings tackles for a loss. Even when you end up cracking his tape from last year for the 4 very limited sample size games that we saw, he's still there. He's still got it. And no, I do not anticipate he's going to be getting quite a few snaps. But when we were having that overall hypothetical in earlier stream where I said, oh my God, if Matt Milano and Bernard go down, do we trust Shaq Thompson to step in and be partners with Dorian Williams and make that happen? I don't know, man. We will see. We all know that Sean McDermott loves, some Carolina Panthers. And ironically enough, his rookie season was in 2015 when Carolina made the Super Bowl. Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator. So I think probably the last potential player that you could bring on over to the Buffalo Bills from the Sean McDermott era. So I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about this sort of overall acquisition, but I feel pretty damn good about it. I really, really do. So biggest storylines, as you know, we did hear an injury report a tad earlier today. If I remember correctly, in fact, you know what? Just to make things easier, we will give you my Sean McDermott video, my video rendition of what happened during his meeting, because we did have an extensive injury report that hit the ether, something I think that we need to discuss. And luckily, based off of all of these names, it sounds like all of them should be ready by training camp. But still, for discussion purposes, let's take a look and hear what exactly we heard from the Sean McDermott meeting right here as I ended up posting this on X. Let's go ahead and take a look. Or let's take a listen, rather.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here are the biggest takeaways from Sean McDermott's press conference leading up to mandatory minicamp. His number one injury update, there are a couple of players that will not be able to participate. That includes KJ Hamler, Cam Lewis, Taron Johnson, Cole Bishop, Tamar Hamlin, and also Joey Bosa, although Sean McDermott is confident that all of them will be ready by training camp. Number 2, James Cook is not only attending mandatory minicamp, but according to Sean McDermott, he is also going to participate, quote unquote, as far as he knows. He went on to say that he understands business is business, and he has all the respect in the world for James Cook for showing up and getting his reps in. Number 3, he mentioned that Matt Milano is dialed in. Now, this is great news, especially since he only has 1 year left on his said contract. This is his opportunity to showcase to the NFL that he still has it. I'm very high on Matt Milano this year. Number 4, he mentioned that a lot of young players are going to be starting for the defense this year. And that typically goes against what McDermott has historically stood for by basically putting training wheels on rookies. But it sounds like Sean McDermott is loosening up, or he's very confident in some of the youth that he acquired during the draft. Love to see it. And last but not least, he mentioned Shaq Thompson. Do keep in mind that he was a part of that Super Bowl run while Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator. Speaks very highly of him. He will not participate today. He just signed. He's probably still recovering a bit from his torn Achilles, but quality depth.
Damn. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean McDermott, we ended up learning quite a bit from his press conference. And most notably, it is, of course, the injury update. It was, I would say, upsetting, and to see that Taron Johnson was not able to participate. Same thing with Joey Bosa. I think it's fine to err with caution when it comes into that edge rusher, because we need this guy as healthy as possible, at least for key impact games. Key impact moments is what we're looking for. But I'd say one of the biggest things that Sean McDermott liked to shoot down was a big narrative in the Sean McDermott era has been that he hates rookies. He wants nothing to do with rookies. He puts training wheels on them, and oftentimes he ends up choosing veterans, many of which some kids render as washed, to start over them because he doesn't trust them. He actually shot that down today during his press conference, saying that the best players play. And I suppose that makes sense, right? Because more often than not, when you have a rookie player at any position, there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. Because I often say this, and an argument that absolutely annoys me is when somebody says, oh, hey, man, and do you think that the LSU Tigers could beat the worst team in college football? Or, excuse me, the best team or the worst team in the NFL, right? And very oftentimes, I just scratch my head because it's literally impossible, right? The worst team in the NFL would absolutely destroy the Ohio State Buckeyes. Bar none, zero questions asked. There are 53 players that are capable of playing in the NFL on the worst team in the NFL, right? But there are only 6 or 7 players on the Ohio State Buckeyes that are capable of playing in the NFL and making a 53-man roster. Maybe 10, right? But regardless, is what it is. So there's going to be a bit of a learning curve when it comes into these rookies who are coming in and adjusting. So I totally get it. But I think this year we really don't have much of an option. We have to really, start scaling up, ramping up these rookies into making some big-time positions, some big-time plays, right? Step up and take on some responsibilities. I'm looking at Max Hairston, right? I am looking at Landon Jackson because, damn, we need a pass rush. We need to get to the damn quarterback, right? So many rookies that we ended up signing need to make a day one impact, and I have a pretty good feeling that they will. And same thing goes for TJ Sanders. Now, based off of what I have seen, based off of what I have observed, what I have heard that has happened at practice today, a couple of standouts, one of which, Joe Andreessen, linebacker. Buffalo Joe had himself a day. All over the field, he picked off Josh Allen once and also is making incredible plays all over the field. A player that I feel like we often forget, a player that I feel that many of us would say only made the team due to Matt Milano being injured leading up or following training camp last year. But dude is really making a name for himself out there. I thought that he did wonderful for special teams. I thought that it was a long shot that he would be able to make the team 2 years in a row, but based off of his performance today, folks, it's quality, because we have to think about the 53-man roster, right? I think it'd probably be reasonable to assume that we'll probably end up keeping anywhere between 5, maybe 6 linebackers going into it, especially since we do run nickel. However, very great performance, solid performance from Joe Andreessen today. One of our highlights. Now, one of the downsides, of course, was that Josh Allen threw 3 picks today. Now, I'm not the one that's going to hyper obsess right over our quarterback throwing 3 picks. From what I understand, it was very windy in Orchard Park today. And when I say windy, I mean very windy. Like, as far as the gust, it was like 25, 30 miles an hour. So there were quite a few of gaffes. Based off of some of the clips that I saw, like one pass to Shavers literally ended up getting absolutely moved, pushed right off to the right, and he still made some immaculate catch based off of some of the clips that I've been able to see, but the wind was certainly a factor. We had Andreessen picked off Josh Allen. Same thing with Christian Benford, who made an absolutely athletic play, jumping and bringing it on down by itself. So that's what I got from minicamp. I think the biggest storylines came out from the press conferences. Also, the Shaq Thompson update, solid performance from Andreessen. You had Josh Allen throw 3 picks. James Cook ended up participating, which is ideal. But so far, attendance is solid, and this is our first taste of the Buffalo Bills. Now, folks, as I mentioned, as many of you are familiar with my show, I spend the first couple of minutes discussing the topics, right? What is on my mind? What is on my soul? And then I transition over to my live chat, my lovely live chat audience, where they take control of the conversation in a Q&A format. If, for example, you have a question for me, please do me a favor and label it appropriately with a Q or a statement with an S. So that way I can easily decipher between the two, and I can make sure that I am giving a wonderful listening experience to anybody that is listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. By the way, I upload all episodes after my live stream to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Links in description if you're curious or say that you want to support your boy. And then also for anybody that is watching the replay of this video, I know that not everybody has an opportunity of joining us live, but I just want to make sure that everything runs smoothly. Folks, I need to give a giant shout out to today's sponsor. It so happens to be William Matar. Folks, if you were ever hurt in a car, you damn well better call William Matar. #1 car accident attorney in the state of New York. I would never wish a car accident on anybody, but if it does occur, you have to make sure you have the right representation. Look no further than my good friend, William Matar. All right, folks, let's get into the Q&A segment here. Discuss what everybody has to say. Mike Green, what's going on? Mike Green is actually coming to the Buffalo event from Roundtable Sports. I'm looking forward to meeting Mike Green in person. Shout out to Mike. Shout out to my mods that always keep the peace around here. I sincerely appreciate it. Since Thompson has been signed, are you still feeling linebacker is the weakest link? Now, Mike, I would say it's going to be safety. However, I did also hear, I did forget to actually put out yet another standout, okay? Forrest, Derek Forrest, who was a free safety out of Washington that a lot of us were trying to be hype about. He ended up having an interception as well. So there you go. So as far as depth, so now I look at the linebacker situation. Matt Milano, you have Bernard, you have Dorian Williams, you have Shaq Thompson, likely Andreessen, right? So 5 right there. Now I'm feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not particularly thrilled with any of the coverage skills that Shaq Thompson, Andreessen / Dorian Williams have. But as far as being like a hard-nosed tackler, somebody that's going to make their tackles, athletic all over the field, I think Shaq Thompson ends up really solidifying what we're looking for right here. So I am feeling pretty damn good about it, man. We have Bills fan 7883 has come in. I remember the camp battle after Edmonds left. Spectre was beating out Terrell Bernard. Then he got hurt, and TB has also been often hurt, but he's been available in games. Spectre is going to be what could have been. I mean, dude, you know what? I so regularly talk to a lot of content creators around here, and I have heard that story before, which is ironic, right? Like how like an injury can derail another player and certainly go into that category of what could have been. But I do know that Spectre, when he has had opportunities to fill in due to injury, oh my God, has given me a damn ulcer. Has given me an ulcer sometimes. So I think Spectre might actually be somebody that is going to be battling for that final position, right? Whether or not we keep 5, 6 linebackers, right? And so again, we run a lot of nickel, so I don't so necessarily see 6 linebackers. Could be wrong. I think that final spot is going to be between Andreessen and Balin Spectre. Who wins it? We're going to have to find out. We are going to have to find out. We have Bills fan 7883 came in and said both Bishop and Hamlin were hurt. Forrest is going to win the job, and I'm happy about it. Skill set of Forrest and Rapp fit together better, in my opinion. And so, look, I would have to agree with you, right? Like when it comes into like a textbook prototypical safety tandem, which is a free safety and a strong safety, right? Somebody who excels in coverage, who's very good in coverage, and then somebody who is a quality, downhill, hard-hitting, strong safety, that would be the perfect tandem on paper, right? Would be Forrest, would be Taylor Rapp. Say that they wanted to go with Cole Bishop and say that they wanted to go with Taylor Rapp. I think both of them are more suited to be strong safeties. And that's not something that's completely out of context, right? Like a lot of NFL teams do that, like where they don't have your prototypical free and strong tandem. But I do feel like it does work when you have somebody that excels in coverage. And that just so happens to be Derek Forrest, man. He had a pick today, which is ideal. Premox has come in. What's up? Hope all is well. With a question. You think Joey Bosa is going to play good this season? I mean, look, and so the box score and the box stats do not lie. When he is healthy, he is wildly effective. His pressures are there. His sacks are there. But now I think it just comes to the question, can he get over some of these sort of nagging injuries that he is known to have? A lot of them are soft tissue and tedious, but then they lead into worse issues, etc., that sideline him for quite a bit. Say that Bosa can be available during key moments, right? Like November, December football and all throughout the playoffs. I'm going to be a very happy guy, but it just really matters when. Brantley Bird has come in. I really think Josh Allen will have the same season like last year, but with more passing yards. So I think it's really going to come down into what the yards after the catch looks like, or the average depth of target for the wide receivers. I don't particularly think that he would achieve more receiving yards or more passing yards by more attempts, because I don't really see this Buffalo Bills team shifting from what was successful last year. We ended up bringing this up last stream, where they said, hey, Dan, and this Buffalo Bills team was 27th, I think, in pass attempts. I don't see us skyrocketing up into the top 10 for pass attempts, right? Maybe a slight increase, but I still think that we're going to be pretty well balanced, even with a focus on the run, right? With James Cook, Ray Davis, and the whole nine by itself. If Josh Allen improves his passing yards, it's largely going to be because of the yards after the catch that his receivers could and go on ahead and bring to the table. And now that we actually have a quality deep threat rate in Elijah Moore, I could certainly see that happening, but I'm not seeing much of a difference in pass attempts this year, or a stark difference, if you will. Could Rapp play coverage backer in a pinch? Dude, he has chops in coverage, right? He has chops in coverage. Like he had so he had 3 picks last year, right? So he's a ball hawk and he can create turnovers if you need. And he's good in coverage, but like he's definitely more of a strong, right? Like that's like his strong suit. So yes, I do have a lot of faith that he could, but I think that there is just another option that would be able to be paired with him to really bring out his full capability. Brantley Bird. So I was in your live stream earlier talking about football, but today I have baseball, and I'm 12-year-old pitcher, throws 73 miles an hour. My boy Brantley Bird, okay? So he's a left tackle. He's a pitcher, and that throws 73 miles an hour, and he weight lifts. You're the man, Brantley. You are the damn man. On top of that, a sick-ass name. Sick-ass name, Brantley. Absolutely love it. Dude, 73 at 12 years old. Absolutely insane. Make sure you keep on that work, young man. Young buck in here, dude. I absolutely love it. Didn't Rapp play a couple of different roles in LA? He was largely a utility piece, which is interesting. Scoop Praz, what did you hear about the receivers from camp? So from what I heard today, I did hear that it was extremely windy. I haven't heard anything as far as like showboaters, like some players that really stood out in one-on-ones. Mostly it just had to do with the conditions, and then it sounded like the defense had a really, really good day. / with the quarterbacks ended up having a rough one, especially trying to pass in those windy conditions. But that is just it. Dolphins are going to sweep these Gooners. Saying Gooners is absolutely crazy. I love that. Joe, what's going on, man? Hope all is well. And the delusion is deep with this one, man. The delusion is deep. I can't even be upset about it. We have been hearing that for years. We have been hearing that for years. How has that worked out yet? Exactly, Mike. Exactly, Mike. Pretty tough there. Pretty tough. But, I mean, guys, look, like when it comes down into it, like mandatory minicamp, I feel like all of us can feel a bit relaxed. Like knowing that the one piece of drama with the James Cook and the question of whether or not that he was going to show up, I'm glad that all of this has come to fruition. I really, really am. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Square, bench Joey Bosa against every team with a losing record. Hysterical. Jay, look, I know James Cook is at mandatory minicamp. That's great, but let's not get fooled. He's still looking for a big contract. Don't be surprised if he holds out in training camp later in the summer. So holding out and holding in are different. Maybe I could see a hold in, right? Like maybe I could see a hold in, but based off of the sentiments I heard from the meeting today, like based off of what I have heard, I don't think that he's going to hold out. And so with a contract or not. So I think that he just wanted his money and he didn't get it. And he realizes he's like, hey, whatever, I'm still going to make $5 million this year. And now I have an opportunity and to have a showboat of a damn season and help this team win. That's not what I got from it. But again, you know, it's tough to predict any of that. It's tough to predict any of that. And I can certainly empathize with it. We have J.K. Dobbins is a Bronco, Ian17. I did see that. Perhaps the Denver Broncos, for the first time in God knows how long, will have a running back that cracks 1,000 yards. It's been since 2019. Fun fact, did you know that? That the last running back to crack 1,000 yards for the Denver Broncos played in 2019. Absolutely insane. Scoop Prod statement. James Cook did say he was going to be at training camp in his press conference. I mean, I suppose a lot can change, but I mean, again, right? He put a lot of emphasis on the fact that he cares about his money, and missing out on training camp does unfortunately has a bit of fines, and I don't think that he's going to want to pay any of that. And I don't know, like his sentiment does sound very professional, and perhaps this like overall like toxic environment was simply just overplayed. Perhaps we were just so enamored or so obsessed with the negative feeling we got from Stephon Diggs that they were entirely two different situations. And James Cook wanting more money was no different from you or I wanting a raise from boss man at work, right? Like that's kind of what I got, but we'll see. Brandley, this will be the last time I will talk in your streams for about 4 to 7 days because I'm going to a football camp. Have a good time live streaming. Have fun at football camp. Brantley, have fun at football camp, my friend. Dan, what will you think our record will be against the AFC North? Jay is coming in with some solid questions right now. It's going to be tough to say, man, because you know what? So I do hate record predictions, although that I do them all the time, right? It's fun. It's fun to speculate. But like we don't know what specific team is going to look like at any given moment. Like, so we just won't, right? Like some teams can hit the injury bug after week 7, week 8. A lot of key players that made them good are now trash. But so I think we beat the Steelers. And so I think we beat the Ravens. You know what? I think we sweep the AFC North. Say that there's a team that beats us, it would be the Ravens week 1. Because based off of my record prediction already going game by game, I literally only had us losing 2 games. And those games were week 1 against the Ravens and then against the Philadelphia Eagles toward the back half of the season, right? But then again, like Buffalo always has these matchups right in the regular season where we look at it going in saying, oh, there's no way we're going to win that game. But somehow we shock the world and we like lay an ass whooping down on them, right? I think a perfect example of that was last year when we saw the Detroit Lions on our schedule. We were like, oh, no, there's no way we're going to beat the Lions. That's a loss. But guess what? It happens every single year. It happens every single year where there's a team on our schedule that we're just like, oh, damn. Like, we're not going to win that game, but somehow we do. I will tell you one thing, a trend that hasn't really been the case for the past 2 years. We haven't, folks, been losing to teams that we shouldn't lose to. Last year, I think, was the first game where we ended up losing to a team that just didn't make sense, right? Maybe you could say Houston, but that was a very good team. And so I'm talking about losing a stinker to a team that has no business in us losing to, right? That didn't happen last year, which is ideal. That's something I feel like we should sort of all relish in and celebrate, but we shall see. We have Premax has come in with a question. What's the cause of the Bills selling every year in the playoffs? Like, I always feel like that's their year and then they sell. So it's a loaded question, right? But say that it were up to me. And of course, with several of you that like hear this analogy all the time, it's lack of quality depth, right? So we think of Madden, right? Like, say Christian Benford, for example. He's a 91 overall in Madden. But the second string behind Benford is a 64 overall in Madden. I don't want, and so our second string to be an 80, right? Because that's unrealistic, or otherwise he'd be starting. But I would like to close the gap. And so I would like the second person in the depth chart so to be a 70-ish. Like, number one, I kind of hope that Buffalo stays healthy, because if Buffalo stays healthy, I'm very confident in this roster, right? Quality roster. This offseason, I thought we did a very good job at building our depth and improving the skill set of our depth players in case we do ultimately end up going into the playoffs banged up in some of our sort of starting roles. That's largely why I would blame the Bills for not having playoff success for the past 2 years had to do with depth. Say that you were to ask me. And the 13 seconds was so clearly coaching, but that's another conversation. How do you think the Bills can get better on third down defense? Is it the D-line stepping up and beating opposing offensive lines, or our linebackers and corners having better coverage? I am definitely going to say pass rush from the defensive line. I don't care like how good your secondary is. If you give a quarterback 5 to 6 seconds to find an open man, there will be one wide receiver that can create separation within that time, right? Third down, I'm probably accounting, I'd say close to 95% of the reason for not getting to the quarterback or making it tough on the quarterback, right? Because, and the longer the quarterback has time with the football, the more likelihood that they are going to find an open man, or they are going to find a gap where they can like run and convert the first down that way. So I'm going to have to put it on the defensive line wholeheartedly. William has come in. Which NFL superstar do you think could have a major downfall this year? Ooh, William. Hot question right there. Hot take question incoming. A player that I could see having a major downfall this year. Downfall. I'd say Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I think Stephon Diggs is not going to have a good season. Statement. It was so nice to hear from our quarterback, and you can tell he's the best mindset he can be in. And I'm looking forward to Josh going beast mode this season. Also, it was nice to see Cook sit down and take questions and answers. I agree with you, man. I sincerely agree with you. Beth B, agreed, Dan. We had losses to legit teams, not teams we should have 100% won against, with the exception of the last game of the season, which actually screwed New England over. So did we really lose? Yeah, that, and of course. And so they were playing our backup. So I typically don't sort of care about that one. Walter S. statement, it will always be a lack of quality depth as the excuse until our defensive line finally steps up. Yeah, and so I'd say lack of depth and certainly a defensive line. Dan, what's up? I'm glad James Cook is back and balling out. I can agree there. I agree the pass rush is definitely the most important, for sure. Can you pick a Bills player that will break out and decline this year? Scoop Prods, man. Oh, man. You want me to be a homer and a hater? Okay. Which player will break out and which player will decline? My breakout radar is Dalton Kincaid. I do think that last year he was held back on some chemistry issues with Josh Allen, and I think that his knee injury held him back. I think Dalton Kincaid is going to have a hell of a season. So give me him for a breakout. Decline, somebody that it's tough because like we're young in all the right places. Yeah, we're young in all the right places. I don't want to wish anybody's downfall. Maybe Taylor Rapp, maybe. That's just because he's starting to get to that. It's tough for a decline, man, because like we have a really young roster for, I'd say, for quite some time. Maybe Daquan Jones too. Like that could be an answer, but thank God we have Deion Walker in the past, but who knows? Premox. And do you ever get scared that Josh Allen might play horrible this season and lost his prime because of all of these losses in the playoffs? Now, he's 29 years old now when it comes into quarterbacks. And so I'm really not worried about a decline right until they start to get to 33, 34 is when that really becomes an issue as far as what your boy is saying. We're going to see. I love Ray Davis. Great guy. Really the blue collar type of player. Humble beginnings. Oh, man. Damn. That's what I'm talking about. But all right, folks. Your boy just wanted to hop on here real fast, talk a little Bills mandatory minicamp football. Do me a favor. Smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't had an opportunity of doing so already. And turn on bell notifications, guys. I will be live again tomorrow. I have a couple of meetings during the normal times at 10 a.m. EST, but I will hop on a bit later in the afternoon to unpack everything that happened at Bills minicamp. So, again, I appreciate you guys showing love. Like this video, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and I will see you tomorrow soon. Peace.